You've been part of this band for almost a decade now. I'm curious, how has being part of this band influenced your guitar playing?
Oh. Gosh, it's an interesting question. I think I've been asked that before. Let me think. I think that Stephen has like a producer's ear. So as soon as we started to record together, the way Stephen talks about tone and talks about like the style of guitar players, like when Tom Morello hits a chord, like we were rehearsing next door to the Chris Cornell tribute thing that was on a while ago. And so Tom Morello and all the Audioslave guys, they were all right next door. And we were like between songs, like we were out taking a piss and like it's like, hi Tom, you know, that kind of but when we like between songs, it was like you could hear like that, and we were just going like, I mean, it's just completely there's no way you could be like, who's that? Even his tech checking his shit doesn't sound like Tom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So Stephen kind of emboldened me with that idea. I think he was like, when you play the guitar, I want people to know that it's you. You know what I mean? So the thing is that all of that is in your fingers. It's all very expressive. So unbeknownst to me, I'm doing that. You know what I mean? So, but he definitely got me to think more about tone, because I was always very kind of punk rock. You know, I get a fucking Marshall 800, and am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah.
And I would just crank it, and then that would be like, yeah, that sounds dope.
Right.
But yeah, we used to we'd shoot out different amps, different guitars, different combinations of like vintage amplifiers. Like we have all these photos of like 9 vintage amplifiers lined up with different microphones on them all, and playing the Strat and then playing a 68 Strat and then playing a fucking Jazzmaster and just going through all these different combinations to try to get, you know, because anything less than what we think is ideal compromises the tonality of the entire product. And that's something that, because I would have been like, that sounds great, track it.
You're right.
You know, so yeah, he's definitely made me a more disciplined guitar player.
Okay. And as a result, do you notice minor changes now more? Because
yeah. Insofar as like, I'll be listening, I'll go like, you know, we can hear the Stratocaster, you can hear the, you know, the tonality difference between all those instruments and the different tones that you'll get off like an AC30 versus a Marshall sound, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah, so I've learned on the gig in that respect, because before that I was just always plug it in and fucking rock it. You know?
Right. So. And speaking of actually, you know, your setup, just because I was watching just now in sound check, that guitar is slung really low on you. I mean, it's like at knee level.
Yeah, I've been hearing that more and more recently now than before. I've always slung my guitar pretty low, because I was kind of like, I'm from the Jimmy Page school of guitar playing, you know, greasy, as we say.
Yeah.
So I always it just looked cool to me, you know. I mean, Tom Morello is like the only guitar player I can think of who he does what our bass player Cavi calls a studio thing, where you wear your guitar really high because you're in the studio. You don't want to look cool, you want to play well,
right?
You know. And I've just always slung it low. And then, so one of my guitars is a Fano JM6. It's kind of like a Jazzmaster sort of thing, that Dennis Fano maybe. And that, I noticed that is like particularly low slung because of where the hoist points are on the body of the guitar. So when I play that, I'm going like, fucking hell, man. This is well low. So yeah.
But not enough so you'd want to just like bring it up a notch on the strap?
It's not uncomfortable.
Okay.
There's nothing, that's the way I've always played the guitar, so I've never really gone like, you know, I don't know, maybe when I get like mad old, I'll be like,
right, yeah.
Thing up. You know, I can't see it.
Right.
You know, or something, but,
because I know, like I think Dave Matthews, he's another one, the guitar is like really up here, and supposedly that's ergonomically better in terms of, you know, how your arm is positioned, how your wrist is positioned, and things like that.
But man, if you go into that, like go down that rabbit hole, you'll find that like this is the opportune pose for playing the guitar. You know? Right,
kind of a.
No one's getting laid sitting like that at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With a PRS. You know what I mean? This shit on PRS. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, so it's not an issue.
Okay.
You know, and it's just kind of, and I play Les Pauls mostly as well. It's kind of Jimmy Page's kind of thing. So when I see a picture of me on stage, like, you know, I go, yeah, fuck yeah. Like I don't go like, God damn, that thing is low. You know, it just looks cool.
Yeah. Because so for you, it's always been it's got to look right, not just sound.
Well, it's just how it feels. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, I started playing guitar when I was like 15. I would just sit on the edge of my bed and just strum chords and just be like going, oh my God, it works. You know what I mean? Like they said it would. But it just, when I started playing in bands and that's just where I put it. I was like, how low can we put the thing, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not. I could talk about it for hours, but yeah, it's not uncomfortable. It feels natural to me, you know. And all the best guitar players are all the most natural guitar players. Are all, for me, the best guitar players. People like John Frusciante, like he just doesn't look weird with a guitar, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's some, I'm not going to name any names, but there's some people when you see them play a guitar, you're going like, no.
Right.
And, you know those guys who are like they're always looking at their right hand.
Right.
They're doing that shit. You know, it's the telltale, it's the giveaway because your right hand is all natural. Your left hand is where all that technique is to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then, you know, speaking of influences and such, you've talked a lot about, you know, kind of top of the heap for you was Prince.
Yeah, is Prince.
Is Prince still. What I'm curious about is what drew you to his guitar playing?
Well, I came across Prince when I was like 9 years old, so it wasn't particularly, I didn't go, oh, he's such a good guitar player, you know. I just thought he was like sexy and cool, you know, and androgynous and all the stuff that I love. I was just in, like immediately. So the whole package, you know, I just thought was the coolest thing in the world. As soon as I started chefing, as soon as I had money to buy myself any of my own clothes that like my parents weren't buying for me when I was like 15, I went into town with my mates and bought like a pair of fucking Docs. I'm wearing a pair of Docs right now and a black trench coat, you know. And I was back in Dublin recently and I was wearing like a quite expensive, like it's not here, like a nice trench coat. And my mom was like, she went, you've been wearing a trench coat your whole life, you know? And I was like, yeah, and a pair of Docs, you know. So. And Prince famous, like the purple trench coat. That's when I came across.
Right, but hers, you know, his was like all paisleyed out and everything.
Well,
you know,
well, it was more kind of like, yeah, he had like studs and stuff.
You're right,
you know
yeah.
what I mean, but it was kind of purple,
like the
flashy.
high collar kind of thing.
Yeah. And but yeah, I was just drawn to his entire package. Like, everything about Prince I thought was fucking cool. I still try to style my hair like the cover of Controversy. It's just kind of looking like that. That's, you know. So I just think that he's just the coolest motherfucker. He just really is. Was, whatever, but you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I got into playing the guitar that I really realized what a phenomenal talent, you know, he was. But I thought to be able to play the guitar, to be able to get an electric guitar, you need to be somebody as rich as Prince. You know, we weren't rich growing up or anything like that. And so I just assumed that was just something that would never, you know, happen. And then a mate of mine called Ian Smith, just mates of my parents. Their parents were mates with my parents, and we would be mates with Gordon and Ian. They're two of our mates in Lucan and Dublin. And we went over to his house once, and he pulled out this fucking electric guitar. And I was like, what? How did that happen? So straight away after that, I was like, you can buy these things? You can go to a shop and get them? And so I was just blown away, and then I was onto my ma going, can we get one? And she said, there's an old piece of shit acoustic up in the attic that your father bought years ago. And she said, if you learn to play that, we'll get you an electric guitar. And I was like, so we got that acoustic, there were 2 strings on it, and me and my brother used to just rehearse. We used to just play, you know, and he was playing like, he had drumsticks, he didn't have a drum kit. And then so for Christmas then, because I bought strings for the fucking acoustic, and I got a book out of the school library, school library kids, and just learned the chords. I didn't even know how to tune the fucking thing. I went down to the local music shop to get like a package of guitar strings, and you know, that's a 15-minute walk, right? And I came back home, and I put them on, and I just assumed that you would just twist it until it didn't, you know, like that, you know?
Right.
And I went through the whole, and I got to the high E string, and of course, as I went up, it flew off.
Oh, God.
Hit me in the face. I was going, fuck. And I was trying to work out if I had enough pocket money to get
more strings.
String.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I didn't know if I could go down and ask for, can I just get that one? Do you
Right, yeah.
Because it was like £6 or something for the packet. you know, and I didn't even know the £6. So I went down with like 50 pence or something, and this is before Ireland was on the Euro system. I'm showing my age, and I went in, and the bird was really nice because I would go down there and talk to her about music and stuff like that, and she was like, okay, yeah, I can get that for you, Christopher. And she fucking, that's what he called me back then. And she gave me the 1 string, and I came home and stupid as fuck did the same thing.
Oh my God.
Because I didn't, I had no idea, and nothing in the book said like, you know.
Right.
You know, so you had to tune the guitar from each string. So the first month that I started learning to play the guitar, I had no high E string. So
Yeah.
my G chord sounded funny and stuff like that. Yeah. But I took to it like a fish to water or whatever. I was completely and utterly obsessed with the guitar from then on. So.
No, and it's fascinating actually because Keith Richards, he, in addition to writing his autobiography, he wrote a children's book about how he learned to play the guitar and loved to get the guitar, and I read it to my son, and it's funny because it's kind of a similar story where his grandfather had this old, you know, unused acoustic thing sitting on top of the piano, and you know, he just always, you know, had to try it, you know, and then just sat with that constantly, even though he didn't exactly know what he was doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, you just play with it.
And so then, did you ever have actual lessons, or was it all okay?
Self-taught,
what can you teach me? You know, friends or watching a guy?
Oh yeah, no, it was just like, you know, watching Jimi Hendrix on, rewinding the fucking thing and going, how is he doing it? You know,
right.
That kind of stuff. But the thing is, that when I started learning to play the guitar, I had already like had a few girlfriends, and I was like, I had been like deeply like in love and stuff like, and had my heart completely smashed and all of that. So, and I'm an arty little fucker. I was always drawing and sketching and stuff like that as a kid. So for me, the perfect conduit for all of that, and that's why, like, when you said that you've got, so how old's your son?
He's 17, but he's a special needs child, so you know, he's very much still a toddler.
Oh, I see.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, it may not apply, but what I was gonna say was that, like, because like Brad, our drummer, has a little wee boy. He's just turned 4, and he's fucking obsessed with the band. He calls us the Doot Doot Band at Uncle Kryz. But he has like a little acoustic or something that he walks around, and he sees the guys playing it on TV, so he's playing it left-handed because he doesn't understand that he's watching.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So,
it's backwards.
But he goes around, he throws all these poses and all the rest of it, and then Brad was like, "What am I going to get him for Christmas?" Well, I get him like a baby electric, it's like, I don't want to get him a baby Strat. I want to get him a baby Les Paul. And I was going like, dude, he's just gonna break it. It's just gonna be, you know, like now isn't 4 years old isn't when kids migrate towards something like that. I think you need to be 13 to 17, something like that, because in and around that bracket is where you've got all of that puberty, crazy mad shit, you know, where you're playing with Lego and Star Wars one day, and then suddenly there are girls everywhere, and you're going, what, you know? And so, yeah, it's the perfect time to be like, to have that conduit for like all that crazy shit that's going on. You know?
Right.
Some kids do sports and all that kind of stuff. I was never that guy. I was always the little punk in the corner writing songs about how I hated everybody. No, I'm kidding, but.
Well, one thing I'm always curious about with musicians that did not have formal training is, what advantages do you think there were to not going down that route? To
that's easy. I mean, it never becomes a job then. Do you know what I mean? It's never a job. Like, if you start to teach a kid, like, you send them to piano lessons when they're fucking 6 or whatever. Yeah. That's a pain in the arse for a kid. Mm-hmm. All that shit, right? And then it's like every Tuesday after school, fucking piano.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of kids who do that, the dropout rate is very high for that, you know? There are some who become virtuosos, you know, and all that kind of stuff, but by and large, I've, in my experience of what I've come across, is like, that becomes a job then, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's a discipline to it and all that kind of stuff, and the posture and all that crap that we're talking about, you know what I mean? Whereas when you just go, that fucking guy is cool, I want to go to there. Yeah. And, you know, that to me is like all the training you need, because you just, and then you meet other fuckers, you know what I mean, who are like, I met my best mate in school, going to the school locker, and I was like singing a Prince song, and he started to fill in the bits with me.
Oh, wow.
And we became best mates, and we made a band a week later. You know, we just, and he was like, "Oh, he was building a bass guitar." Anyway, it's a long story, but we get into a band and we all play together, and it was, you know, you learn from your mates, and then you learn, like, you know, who's in the hierarchy of, like, you know, we played. I'm sure you know Damien Rice, the musician he's from Dublin as well.
Name sounds familiar.
Yeah, but we played in a band together, and we worked out very quickly that I was going to be the lead guitar player, and he would be the rhythm guitar player, you know, and stuff like that. So, and it's so funny, you know, kids fall into like their brackets. We did a gig festival with the School of Rock were on the same.
Okay,
Same festival, and we got to hang out, and we were actually shooting a video for our song. The Kids Are Coming to Take You Down, and so we had like this stream of like little punk kids, little rock kids walking past us, past the tour bus, and I was going, "Get the cameras! Everything we need is right in front of us." Here." So we had all the kids like do all stuff for the video and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And we were just hanging out and talking to them, and I was just going like, that's me. I can see the little lead guitar player right there, you know. There's the singer, and he's a little bit fucking, you know, his shit. There's the little wee bird who's like, you know, I'm going to be their manager, you know, that kind of thing, you know, and they got like the little cute little groupie kind of thing going on. And the nerdy photography kid is there, and he's got his fucking camera, and his dad gave him it's way too big.
Right.
Yeah, kids just sort themselves out into all those brackets. So I think that's the same thing kind of applies to like when you get into a band. We're all such like typical embodiments of like the lead guitar player, you know, the singer, the bass player. Like it's hilarious. And we go on tour and you meet other bands, and you start to see everybody segregate off into their own groups.
Right. Well, no, it's interesting because a friend of mine, Rich Redmond, who plays drums for Jason Aldean, and he's played with a bunch of other artists. He always has this thing. He talks about when they go on tour. He said the drummers are always the most gregarious in that it's the drummers that are always the first ones to introduce themselves to the other bands on the bill, you know, and go in and said, hey, you know, this, that, and the other. And so his whole thing is, he said, if you get 5 drummers in a room, this is his stereotype, you get 5 drummers in a room, he said, we will close down the bar talking about music, philosophy, life, everything. And he said, if you get 5 guitarists in a room, they will beat the shit out of each other.
Oh, really? Wow, I don't know. Well, in our band, our bass player Cavi is usually the first to meet the support band and stuff like that, and walk in and be like, you know, hey guys. And like we were out last night for pints, and the support band they were in the same bar. We didn't even know. So we were in the front section of the bar, and they were in the back section. And towards the end of the night, they came out and they were like, whoa! So we had a big. So we're all going to hang out, I think, tomorrow in Savannah.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, but it's funny, you know. You'd be like. I was like, I hadn't seen them at that point, and I was just going like, that's the fucking singer. I'll bet you any money. He plays bass, you know. So, yeah, it's funny.
So you mentioned festivals, and you had a great line. Someone in an interview asked you about some festival, and you said, when it comes to festivals, you guys steal the audience.
Oh, yeah.
So first off, just to clarify, what do you mean by you steal the audience?
Absolutely everybody who's at the festival comes to see us. I mean, it's just a fact. You can't, it's undeniable. I mean, look at the fucking video I made for Lollapalooza, because there was a special needs kid down in the back, and we played Semi-Charmed Life, and he's in a wheelchair, and his mates fucking lifted him up in the fucking wheelchair, and like crowd surfed to the front of the fucking stage. And then when he got to the front of the stage, Stephen was like, they were going to put him down into the pit.
Yeah.
And Stephen was like, And he was like, got the security to put him on the stage.
Wow.
With us. Anyway, I made a video about it because it was an amazing moment, really, and we were all very moved by it. But so I did like a little circle on the guy through the thing, and then he's up on the stage, and it was just amazing. But secondary to that, if you look at that audience, it's like Chicago in the background. And I was like you can see
the band, not the city. Yeah.
No, the city. It was in Lollapalooza.
Oh, okay.
It was Lollapalooza in Chicago. Right?
Okay, I thought you meant like they were on another stage
no,
in the festival.
No. That would be amazing. We're like, hey, Chicago.
All right. I'm like, well, that's...
all the kids are facing this way. It's just you can see the other stage.
Okay.
But you can see the city of Chicago in the background. It's
okay.
It's a beautiful shot that I did. But anyway, it's just the expanse of people, you know?
Yeah.
I was always going like, that's a lot of iPhones out there right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's just these fucking sea of people. And it's like, yeah, they I don't know how they do it, but they work out the attendance. They go like, okay, so you guys took this and they took that and all that
Right.
kind of shit. And it's like our shit is always fucking boom. So yeah.
Well, then that begs the question: how do you steal an audience? Because there are tons of these festivals, and that's right now a great way for bands to get exposure and stuff like that. But it is you're going up sometimes against more experienced acts, and there's multiple stages going.
Yeah.
So how does a band artfully steal an audience?
Well, I think by reputation of the band's live reputation, I'm going to say that twice, but it's just our live reputation. I think people who come to see us come back to see us. I mean, that's just a fact as well. Like, when we play all these venues, they're all sold out. It's like, that's not, there are some bands that you go to see and you go, all right, I get it. And then you're like, no, I saw them. They come out and they press play on their fucking Mac.
Yeah.
And then they kind of jump around with the guitar. It's cool, hey, it's cool. Man, yeah. Live and let live. Everyone does their thing, whatever. Like, I love some of those bands, you know what I mean? But when you come to see us, it's just, I mean, if you guys could hear what goes on, if you saw that sound check, it's just, right now we're obsessed with medleys. So we, at one point in tonight's set, we're gonna play 8 fucking songs in a row.
Wow.
They all just go into each other, And we change it up every day, and today we changed it up again. And you can't do that if you're one of those pre-programmed bands,
Right.
We did a gig, I shouldn't even, maybe I can tell this story. We did a gig, I won't mention any names, but there was a band that was on the same festival that we were on. And their drummer, it was like their hometown or whatever. And so their drummer had, like, his girlfriend was at the show. And they were doing the set, and I guess his girlfriend went onto the tour bus and found his phone and found a whole load of fucking shit that he was up to, nefarious activity on tour. And she came onto the stage while they were playing, and she took his laptop and smashed it and fucking fucked his phone. Came on the stage and started fucking beating the shit out of him. And he's up there drumming, but they've got the tracks going. And he can't stop, he can't fucking do anything. They couldn't,
Oh,
and I was just going, that's why you don't play the tracks,
Oh,
But yeah, for us, it's just like, whatever's on the spur of the moment, we can just shift it around,
Right.
Jenkins just, has a very short attention span, so he will constantly go, oh, wait, no, let's hey, stop. And we'll just change something on the fly, We'll come off stage and go like, you guys want to play blah, blah, We'll be like, fuck it, yeah.
Right.
Once my guitar tech Joseph knows, because we have a bunch of different guitars and different tunings and all that stuff. So once he gets the first heads up,
Yeah.
we're ready to go for anything. So I think people respond to that immediacy. Our shows are always different, and they're always totally live, and Stephen's compelling to see live, he's very, what would you say, like, he's very free on stage, and so there's just a sense of like, this motherfucker could potentially do anything up there, So, and that's scary, and it's awesome. Like, I saw who was a Beyonce play, and it was just perfect. Like, everything about it was perfect. And I was totally bored. I was just going, this is amazing. You are amazing. But I don't ever need to see that again. So we're not perfect, but we are amazing.
But, and it's funny because that seems to be vital now, because as the music industry has gone completely sideways, and there isn't the money being made from selling albums and all that kind of stuff, the live show more and more is key to a band's existence. And so if you cannot get them to show up the first time, and then if you cannot get them to show up repeatedly, I mean, that's what your survival is based on. So it sounds like it's natural to you. It doesn't sound like it's a calculated thing, but it sounds like
it's just, I mean, we've always done that. And then even before, when I was in the band, like, the guys, I assume, had that mentality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when it was like massive record sales and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
when that was more important.
Yeah. And then to kind of bring things around to the new album, Screamer. First off, what stands out in your mind when you think about the recording of the album?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Ryan Olson, a producer that we worked with, who's just a trip, as you say in America. He's just the guy is just a mad scientist, if
Yeah.
ever about one. He takes a song. You give him a song, you know. You say this is, you know, and he'll turn that into something indescribably different. Like it's utterly bizarre. He produced a record, I think, with this guy called Swamp Dogg, who's been recording since, I don't know, you'd have to check, but like he's like 150 years old or something like that, right? He's been recording forever.
Yeah.
And he got Ryan to produce this record, and Ryan gave us this song as this is the kind of thing I do when he was pitching for the gig. And it's a song called I'll Pretend. And it's incredibly moving, and it's the whole backstory behind it is like the guy had his wife, something horrible happened or something like that, and then she died before they got to make amends, and so he was like, I'll pretend when the phone rings that it's you and all this kind of stuff. But the song is incredible and very, very moving. And the original version, I said to Ryan, yeah, let me hear the original. I want to hear what you did initially, you know what I mean? And did I just fuck up the mic? I did.
A little bit.
So I was like, let me hear the original of that song.
Yeah.
And he played it, and it's a straight song.
Oh.
Now you guys are going to have to go and Google the song
Yeah.
to hear what I'm talking about, but it's utterly bizarre what that guy does. So he produced a song on the record called I Got So High. We actually just did it in soundcheck there, just jamming it out kind of thing to try it, because we hadn't played it live yet. And the chorus of the song goes, I got so high, I fell in love. It's this whole trippy thing like that. And we played it straight. We had it, you know, it was a pretty straight song, right? And Ryan took it and he made that fucking breakdown bit all become like an acid trip slowing down. Like, and then it goes, I got so high, and it's a totally different tempo. And he brought in French horns, and then it comes back up to the verse again, and it's like, hey, and all that. And then it goes back to the drug
Trippy stuff, yeah.
So, yeah, so he stands out from the recording sessions because he's such a unique individual. Like, other than that, we went to Sonic Ranch in El Paso, which is a place that we've used a few times. We recorded all over the place, Encinitas as well. We did a bunch of stuff there. LA, a lot of stuff was done in LA as well. Brian stands out.
Okay. And then also, Stephen is quoted as saying, because when he was interviewed about the album, he said that it's like the whole thing was keep the edge, keep it weird.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is, how did you, with your part, keep it weird?
I think we all felt that structurally some of the songs were unique, and there's a tendency to look at songs and try to put them into a structure that makes sense to people insofar as, you know, like, so songs that are growers, I always say, like, on, you know, those album tracks that are growers. I mean, Motorcycle Drive-By is one of those songs. That was never a single. That's like a massively favorite fan song, you know what I mean? Structurally, that's a really odd song when you look at it, the way it's structured. But it totally works. But it's not Never Let You Go. It's not something that people get up and start dancing to or whatever. So it's not, the immediacy of it isn't there.
There's no obvious hook.
Yeah, but it's this incredible story, and you just get lost in the narrative of it, you know? And it's just really, really beautiful, but structurally it's odd. There's no like big chorus, and if I can, you know, it just continues moving in the same direction, and it builds and then comes all the way back to the beginning again, and it's just really, really incredible. So there's a track on our new record which structurally is odd as well, and we're playing it tonight. It's called Light It Up. And I remember we were having the conversation, and Stephen was going like, so if we move this and you know, this bit's too long, and if we do that there, and I was going, mate, just let it ride exactly as it is. It is weird, and that's what's amazing about it. So I think I tried to just keep my shit as weird, and there's a lot of kind of funk elements in the recording of this in terms of the guitar and stuff like that. So I was trying to make it more like, I was almost like the weird element that wasn't weird in this environment, you know what I mean? But outside of it was potentially a bit odd.
But actually, I would say, like, a lot of your work on this album, it's kind of sparse in the sense that you're almost, it's almost surgical when you're like, okay, now I'm going to make my presence known. Now I'm going to pull back.
Yeah.
When, with a lot of typical rock albums, the guitar is right up front, from note one to
Yeah.
the very end. And then, so I'm curious, is that just your preferred way of doing it, or was it just this is what the situation called for?
No, like, so you'll hear the live songs tonight, and you'll hear those album tracks and how we communicate them live. And what I like, what Stephen said recently, he was talking about how, because he was so sick of making, like, when we did Dopamine, that record took 6 years, and it was just like, after that, he was like, no more records. It's just EPs and singles and shit like that, And then, of course, we put out another record because we recorded something. But the band became more functional. When we started recording Dopamine, we had like a different bass player, and it was a totally different lineup. So as we moved on and became more cohesive as a unit, as a band, we started to work much, much faster. So, and then so this is coming back to what Stephen said. He basically said, like, let's look at these songs as like kind of like a snapshot, like a time capsule of like, this is what the song sounds like today. It's released on the record. In 2 weeks, we might write a different verse, and then we'll be playing it live, and that's the song then. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just to not be so precious about all of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in terms of the guitar not being as present, I think that's like a producery thing for radio-ish stuff.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not that the guitar parts aren't there. It's that they've like the prominence is like leaning heavily on like the ethereal
beats.
kind of stuff
Yeah.
and the beats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, this whole tour we've had people coming up to me afterwards going, I love the guitars on it. You know what I mean? Like the live, because to communicate it live, it's more of a rock.
Right,
thing, you know what I
right.
mean?
But actually, that also goes back to, especially talking to a lot of musicians and what they like in bands that they go see live, is again, that element that this is going to be different and unique kind of evening. And, I've talking to a lot of musicians that they get annoyed if a song sounds exactly like it does on the record, and they're like, I could have just stayed home and listened to it. What they like is when, all right, it still has the essence, but let's take it this way, let's take it that way, let's,
Well, it has to have the live, like the immediacy of a live show, it has to have that energy, We did a live record for the 2017 anniversary tour, or whatever it was. We put out a Summer Gods live record, and you can hear all those classic songs and how we've kind of interpreted them, and that record sounds fucking good, man. It sounds really fucking good. Yeah. So.
And then I'm also curious, how have you changed as a vocalist over the years?
Oh yeah, massively, I would say. Yeah. I was always a strong singer, but now I'm kind of like a bit of a motherfucker as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Because you kind of get a bit of a swagger.
Yeah.
Like I've always had that with the guitar because, like I said, when you start to play with other bands and stuff like that, everybody kind of spots who's the this fucking guy, who's got the game. You know what I mean? So when you have that, you have a bit of, like, I used to always refer to myself as a gunslinger. It's terrible, isn't it? Oh God, sounds so
with,
pretentious.
the long trench coat kind of thing.
Yeah, but there's
those
just some
Westerns,
sort of like potential for chaos or something like spectacularly violent.
Yeah.
With like being the lead guitar player, so I was thinking like the gunslingers. I'm like, that guy's a fucking gunslinger. You know what I mean? Like Jimi Hendrix. You know what I mean? It's like, anytime somebody talks shit on Stratocasters, I'm always like, because look at that, Jimi Hendrix. What a girl. You know what I mean? So but so I feel more of that now vocally. I feel like I can kind of do a bit of vocal gymnastics without, and take it in my stride kind of thing,
And how much of that has been influenced by meshing your voice with Steven's?
I don't know if that's something that I think about. It's mostly like, we'd work out the harmonies, and Steve would be like, try this interval. And we'd be like, well, and then you do that bit and that kind of thing like that. I don't think, and so we're trying to sing kind of like a chorus group, but usually Stephen soars up on top of that, and so we're the collective underneath him vocally. That's the way I feel about it. There are certain parts where we sing together. Something in You has a thing like that. The funniest part about that was that I had to watch my pronunciation because I'm from Ireland, so I don't say things the way Americans say things. So there's a line, and our bass player Cavi keeps on. He doesn't keep on, but he said it to me a few times. He was like, "You know that line where you say the floor?" He said, "You've got a real hard R at the end of your floor."
Yeah.
And Stephen says like floor. Or
Yeah.
floor. How do you say floor?
Floor.
Floor. But so I say floor.
Yeah.
So there's a fucking hard Irish R
Right.
at the end
It
of
hangs
so
on
like-
at the end for
yeah.
a little.
So we're going like, "Get on the floor," and so I'm that, you know.
So you like impersonate an American accent when you sing that, or?
No, I don't think
Okay.
I can. I mean, it'd sound weird if I did, you know.
You're-
It's like I used to always make a joke that like, Graduate.
Mm.
That song is like, "Can I graduate?" I was like, I had to teach myself that one because I would say graduate.
Right. Yeah.
This is a soft ending on that for Irish people. Graduate.
Yeah.
Like goat. Oh shit! I'm touching the mic again.